Hi everyone. So welcome back to another series of videos. So today I'm going to run a series of videos on linear, not linear algebra, on just algebra. So the first video that I'm going to record is just going to be so let's get the pen ready. It's just going to be on algebra, and under algebra. So under algebra, we'll be looking at just formulae. So these are just formulas. So in formulae today, I'm going to be taking you through making a variable subject of the formulae. So this is what we are going to be doing in a bit today. So get ready for that. So I'm going to start with some very simple equations. So one, we're going to start with A. So A is a very simple equation. So here you are going to make y subject of the formulae. Yeah, so you can complete that. So that's one. So our question A is going to be y plus w is equals to c. So what we want to do is to be left on this side, on the left hand side with y alone, then everything else goes to the right hand side. So to do that, we would subtract w both sides. We subtract w both sides. Then therefore, our answer becomes y is equivalent to, then w minus w becomes 0. It becomes just c minus w. So that is just a that we got there. So now moving on to question B, which is going to be relatively similar to what we've been doing here. It's going to be a multiplied by y is equivalent to w. So what we need to do here is to also be left with y alone on the left hand side. So what we're going to do now to liberate or to remove a from y is that we're going to be dividing both sides by a, since these two are being multiplied. So when you divide both sides by a, we're going to get this a cancelling that a, so we get 1 times y becomes just y. Then our answer becomes y is equals to w divided by a, which is very simple and straightforward. So now we're going to continue with these simple examples just to drill you on making equations subject to the formula, a variable subject to the formula. So we're going to do a couple more just to drill you on this, and these are going to be very important when we proceed with algebra and do other more difficult concepts. So bear with me if these things are a bit easier for you, but I just want to lay a proper foundation before we start flying. So another equation that we're going to have here is y squared is equals to s. So also at the same time, we just need to be left with y in this form, just y, but this one is an exponent. So what we're going to do is to release the exponent from there. So to make that simple, we're going to take the square root both sides for us to liberate this y from the exponent. And when we do that, the square root of y squared is just y. Then this gives us the square root of s. And on this solution here, you could, for other advanced classes, you could be expected to write it in the form of y is equals to plus or minus the square root of s here. And why are we writing it this way? Because, you know, the negative of the square root of s multiplying the negative of the square root of s, the negative and the negative are going to give you a positive. So you're just going to be left with the square root of s multiplying the square root of s, which is just s. And also, if you have positives, it's just this line that we have here. So you could be asked to write it this way, or you could leave it that way. So that is one other thing that you just need to consider and have at the back of your mind when you are dealing with these. So now we're going to do another example, which is also very fairly simple, just meant to drill you on making a variable subject to the formula. So we're going to have r over y is equivalent to w. So now here, if you look at this question, it's different from the way we've been doing it. So now y is on the denominator. So what we need to do now is to get y out of the denominator. So to do that is very simple. We are going to multiply both sides by y, such that this y cancels that y. And we are left with r is equals to wy. And now what we want to do now this side is that we want to separate y from w. So to do that, we just divide by y here, and we divide by y. And this y cancels that. So we're going to have, not y actually, pardon me for that. Let's fix this. Or rather, let's just do this. We're not dividing by y. We want to make y subject to the formula. So we're going to divide by w both sides. We're going to divide by w both sides such that we are left with y only this side. So that is going to be y is equals to r over w. And that is how you made y subject to the formula. So which is fairly easy and straightforward. So now we are going to move on to do more examples of making a variable subject to the formula. So now for 2, we're going to be make x subject of the formula. So that is what we're going to do here. So SOF is just subject to the formula. So which is also the same thing as what we had there, but it's just to give you more practice. So the first one that we're going to be doing here, it's a very simple one. So it's going to be x over n plus 2, and this is equal to w. So what we want to do also at the same time here is that we want to get rid of this n here from our x. So to start with it, it's just fairly simple. This is going to be x over n. Then we subtract 2 both sides here. So this is going to be equal to w minus 2. Then when we are here now, we need to remove this n from here. And to do that is fairly simple. We just multiply by n this side and multiply everything this side by n. So you have to put it in the brackets. And when you do that, this n is going to cancel that n. And when you do that cancellation, you're going to be left with x equals to w minus 2. You could multiply that by n outside. And that is how it is going to be for you. So now let's proceed to the other example that we're going to be dealing with here, which is going to be our B. And it's also fairly straightforward. And I believe after a couple of practice, you're going to be confident. So we have x over 6 minus 5. This is equal to w. So we are going to do the same thing. We want to liberate what? We want to liberate this x here, or we want to remove this 6 from the x that we have there. So to do that is fairly straightforward. Since this number here is a negative, we're going to add 5 here, and we're going to add 5 here. And negative 5 plus positive 5 gives you a 0. So what you're going to be left with is going to be x over 6 is equals to w plus 5. So now what we're going to have to do also again is to separate this x and this 6. So to remove this 6, we multiply by 6 both sides, and we multiply by 6 both sides. So when we do that, this 6 and that 6 cancel each other, and when they do cancel each other, we're going to be left with just x equals to 6 multiplying everything that is inside the bracket. So remember, this 6 that is the side is multiplying everything that is on the bracket, but not a single value. So you've made x subject to the formula here. So we're going to move on to the next example to help you further understand the concept that we're going to be dealing with here, which is also fairly simple. Let me see, which example are we on? It's going to be example number C. So example number C is going to be fairly simple. So that is x plus 3 over C, and this is going to be equals to h. So also at the same time, what we need to do is to deal with this term here so that we could be left with this x alone on the other side. And to do that is fairly simple. What we're going to do, we're going to have this, I'm going to rewrite this here since I've already marked it here, x plus 3 over C equals to h. So we're going to multiply both sides by c, since the c here is on the denominator, and this c and that c are going to cancel each other. Then we multiply by c here, then this c cancels that c, and we're going to be left with x plus 3 is equals to hc. And since we have a 3 here, we need to remove it from there. So we're going to subtract 3 both sides, and we're going to be left with x is equals to hc minus 3. And that is your solution for this one. So we're going to do one more, then we move on to even more interesting things. So be patient with me. I mean, if you're comfortable with these things, just go through the video and just jog your memory and remind yourself of the simple basic things, because making subject to the formula is very important when you're doing algebra and some manipulations in algebra. So the last one is also just fairly simple that I want us to do, which is going to be the cubed root of x over k is equals to w. So we are still dealing with the same thing. We want to liberate this x. So to do that, it's fairly simple. We're going to rewrite this thing as the cubed root of 3 x over k. Then everything that is here, we're going to raise it to the power of 3, since this is a cubed root. Then this is going to be equals to w to the power 3. So whatever you do on the left, you also do it on the right. So when that happens, this is going to cancel that, and you're going to be left with x over k is equals to w to the power 3. And when it is at this point, it's similar to what we had in the other examples there. We're going to multiply by k, and we're going to multiply by k here. And when you do that, you're going to be left with x, since this k is going to cancel that k, is equals to k multiplying w to the power 3. So now we are going to move on to example number 3. And it's also just fairly simple, and I believe you're going to find it easy at the same time. So here you're going to make C subject of the formula. So SOF is just subject of the formula. I don't want to write the whole thing, so I'm going to do just 3 examples here. So we're going to have a plus c, everything squared is equals to t. And when you have an example like this one, it's still similar to the one that we had there. So what you're going to do is that you're going to take this the square root both sides, so that you could eliminate this 2. that is powering that, and you're going to be left with a plus c is equals to the square root of t. And since you have c here, you need to remove the c. Actually, not c. Since you have a here, you need to remove the a so that you are left with c only on the other side. So it's minus a minus a. So this is going to become c is equals to the square root of t subtracting a, which is fairly simple and straightforward. And I hope you're actually enjoying that. And now let's move on to the next example. The next example is also fairly simple. V is equals to u plus ac. So if you're doing physics, you're going to come across this this equation is the velocity function. So yeah, but for now we're just manipulating it in mathematics. So you want to make c here the subject of the formula. So to do that, it's fairly simple. It's going to be you are going to remove this u from both sides, since you want to be left with what has c on the other side. So this becomes v minus u is equals to ac. And now to make c subject to the formula, you have to divide by a both sides. You've divided by a both sides, and this a cancels that a. And this is going to give you what we have this side here, which is just c is equals to v minus u, and everything is divided by a. Now we are doing example, the last example for this session here. Then I'm going to record the next sessions. So v is equals to pi multiplying c squared and multiplied by the height. So also it's still the same thing. We want to free this c that we have here. So to do that is that we need to get rid of h and pi. And to get rid of h and pi, it means that we are going to divide both sides by pi and h, both sides by pi and h. So this h is going to cancel that h, this pi is going to cancel that pi. And when you do that, you're going to be left with an equation that looks like this. This is going to be c squared is equals to v over pi over h. So I just took this and put it on the other side. So when it's at this point, for you to be able to move on to the next point, you have to take the square root so that you get rid of the square here. And you take the square root here. Then when you do that, this is just going to be c is equals to the square root of v over pi h. And remember what I told you earlier, you can actually write this thing as just plus or minus the square root of v over pi h. And right there, that would be the end of this very simple tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed it.